Until the 20th century, the only way to really experience music was either to play it yourself or hear it in live performance. Imagine the excitement when people realized they could sit in their own homes and listen to music coming from a rather strange-looking contraption invented by Thomas Edison called the phonograph. Around this same time, a whole new era of communications was opening up. Radio. Radio caused the world to shrink. No longer did hundreds of little communities, like those dotting the coast of our province, have to feel isolated from the rest of the world. With the flick of a switch, news and entertainment were right there in the homes of anyone with a radio.
As you know, all the entertainment, radio was a live medium. There was no, there wasn't records and tapes per se. Everything was done live. Well, finally what happened was somebody got the bright idea of, well, listen, let's put these things down. I mean, Edison's got this great invention called a record. Let's do something with it.
Yes, records really changed the broadcasting industry. There were all styles of music for all kinds of tastes. And naturally, the music styles changed with the times. The 1950s brought with it the beginning of a new music genre, rock and roll. Right along with it came a new breed of radio announcer, the disc jockey, or radio personality. Since the 50s, technology has improved considerably. Cassettes and CDs have replaced the record, but the DJs are still with us. So, what does it take to become a radio personality?
Good morning, I'm Mike Klass. Here's Doug Supernaw, brand new one called Reno, and 99.1, Tex Country.
The fundamental requirement to be a radio personality or a radio announcer or disc jockey is the ability to be an effective communicator. And with the way broadcasting is today, a personality doesn't hurt. Now, you can go to school, there are schools where you can go and learn to do the basic radio work, run a control board, to prepare a show for air and things like that. But, you know, there's no school that can teach you personality. I mean, you either have a personality that's suitable for the industry or you don't. You know, you can copy someone, but the most successful people in our industry are people who are individuals who kind of, you know, you'll find that most of us follow a different drummer, you know, and have our own unique personality or style, which attracts a certain audience.
And more of the best music right here at VOFM. This is John Cicada.
The vitality of a radio personality can certainly attract an audience, but does that person have any influence on the style of music the listener wants to hear?
A radio personality can't, but a radio station can. By picking, no one person, you see, a radio announcer is a very small part of a very big wheel. He's only a spoke in a wheel with 30 spokes. So he's a small part of what's going on in radio. So he can't do it individually, or she can't. But the radio station can by picking a format, in other words, a type of programming sound, whether it be all talk, you know, news and public affairs and all that, with no music, you know, and then people who don't like to hear music will listen to that. Classical, for people who like classical music, you know, they'll listen just to that station. Adult contemporary, like our station is. Country western, whatever. And that will influence the person's listening habits.
You're all probably familiar with the term, the top 40. Well, this listing of the current songs on a chart is a measure of the music's viability and audience acceptance. How do these songs get positioned on the charts?
In music, usually retail sales and request action. You know, I mean, somebody hears a song once and say, boy, we like that. Everybody starts calling for it. So you notify the record company that, boy, we're getting a lot of calls for this particular song or this particular group or whatever, and that will influence the position on a chart. Radio stations have very little to do with the actual positioning themselves.
Is it safe to assume from these facts that local and national listening habits are similar?
We're right on. We're right on normal average with the requests that we get here in St. John's, Newfoundland, and the requests that they get in Grand Falls and Corner Brook, Newfoundland, and wherever are pretty much on average with the rest of all of North America, including the United States.
Who then determines the overall music programming for private radio stations, like, say, VOCM?
In private radio today, there were a lot of factors that determine the type of music that we are going to play. In particular, we pay very close attention to listener taste, listener preference. A request line at a radio station does influence, to an extent, the type of music we play. Obviously, the position of a record on a chart is a very important factor as well. But for a station to be as successful as it can be, one of the factors that has to be considered is listener appreciation and listener response to a particular type of music or a particular song. Radio stations listen very closely to their listeners. They better, if they want to be as successful as they can be. And then at the end of the week, when we have a music meeting to discuss songs that we're already playing or should consider playing, we look at the requests and determine whether or not that does have merit with the listeners, and we will act appropriately on that. Of course, we watch the national charts, the Billboard magazine charts of the songs that are big across North America, and that does determine, to a great extent, the type of music and position of the song that we're going to play on VOCM.
Maybe your favorite, Duran Duran.
Of course.
You love Duran Duran. Who's
I do.
Duran Duran?
Duran Duran.
Music preferences are very personal. You may enjoy a certain song or style of music that your friends would never bother to listen to if they had a choice. Privately owned and operated radio stations tend to cater to the listening wants of the local majority. But what about public radio stations, like the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, the CBC? Do they just operate on a broad musical format basis? Or is there in fact any difference between private and public radio operations?
You know, I think the main difference is probably the amount of live musical recording that we do, live talent as opposed to talent on disc. We have various programs, performance programs in classical music, variety music, which includes everything from pop to jazz to folk and everything in between, on Saturdays and the weekends. Plus we have network programs that we're responsible for recording material and sending up. Programs like Jazz Beat and Coast to Coast, and even programs like Basic Black and the radio show, they use live recorded talent from us as well. So that would be the big difference that we have.
Being funded by the federal government as part of a national broadcasting system undoubtedly has an impact on the musical programming at CBC.
First of all, we have the ability to feature Newfoundland artists nationally and make them, give them a lot higher exposure and higher profile across the country. We can also exchange material, in other words, material that's not necessarily for everybody in the country to hear, but we may send out the occasional cassette of Newfoundland artists to one of the various programs across the country and encourage them to use them. When discs, records, or cassettes of Newfoundland artists are recorded and released, we will normally send copies of those to most of the stations across the country. So with that kind of a network, we can give far greater exposure to Newfoundland talent.
So, that's it, you say. Private radio stations play music to please the most of us, and public broadcasting covers everything else. Well, no, there's another type of station that caters to a very specific audience. For instance, in Nain, Labrador, the Ohalahactagit Society, a broadcasting system run and operated by the Inuit people of Labrador, caters to a specific culture. So what would their music format be? This is Angus Anderson, senior radio producer, OK Society Radio.
Well, we play usual request music, but we include Inuktitut music, which are regional and local. We also have some from Northwest Territories and Northern Quebec. So unlike CBC, we play a lot of Inuktitut music, both country Inuktitut and church music. Well, here's one of the songs where a lot of people like so it's becoming more popular. That was August Anderson with Atatamat Tuminginik, one of our more popular songs, and it's in translation, My Father's Footprints.
It's undeniable that pop music today has vast listener appeal. So why is there substantially less emphasis given to pop at CBC compared to the private stations?
The reason why we play less popular music than other stations is because other stations play more. And if you're going to have a good mix and a good balanced system, then it's necessary that all tastes be met. We can play a lot of jazz, which is not a big revenue producer for a private station because it's not popular. So we can play a lot more jazz than a private station can. We can play a lot more folk music than a private station can because we're not driven by the necessity to have the highest potential possible audience and therefore the highest potential revenue through advertising.
Pop music has more mass appeal. I mean, once you start getting into the eclectic, you know, those different types of formats. I mean, like you take country western music. I mean, country western music attracts a certain type of person, and only so many. Classical music has the smallest listenership of any music available. It takes a very, and it's not because it's not great music. I personally love classical music myself, but to have it on the radio on a regular basis, it's not a financially viable choice for format.
Pop music and rock may be the top priority music with many stations, but it has very little appeal for Ohalahactajeet listeners.
Well, not really rock. No, we don't have no rock music. But we have some dance music from Greenland that's in their language.
Newfoundlanders may be on a par with the rest of North America in their musical tastes as it relates to modern music, but we do have a fondness for our very own style of music. For instance, VOCM has an Irish Newfoundland request show on Saturday mornings. It's a very popular show, but strangely enough, it only works on Saturday mornings.
As far as, do people ever call in and request it during the week? Never. Never. Once a week is fine, and that's about all they want. But to hear it every day, it just doesn't pan out. I mean, a lot of people have tried it to do it on a regular basis. It doesn't work.
Aha! Could the time of day have an influence on the style of music that will be played?
It's 10:59. Coming up, we have another 4 in a row of the greatest hits of all time, including the Tina Ike Turner hit Proud
The
Mary.
term, the professional term for that is called day parting. Like, for instance, on an adult contemporary radio station like our radio station, you're not going to hear any heavy rock music in the morning. You're not going to hear really any heavy rock music. But the thing is that the reason being is that people get up in the morning in a different mood than they are at night. Most people don't want that kind of a start to their day. I mean, it's already going to be hectic enough, and then you get them, and you can affect their moods by the type of music you play, and so that does have a great deal. I mean, we don't start opening up our radio station until after 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Stop and think for a moment of the hours we spend surrounded by music that quite often we don't even notice until something really catches our attention. Perhaps that indicates that we Newfoundlanders and Labradorians really want a wide choice of music to suit our various needs. Are you happy with what's offered you in your area? If not, what could you do to change things? Could you possibly have any influence on the music scene in your community? Think about it.
Think that you won't feel the pain now.
Okay, let's say a radio station decides to set its musical format to appeal to a certain type of listener. Country, rock, whatever. How does that format affect the station financially?
The music has a financial effect on the radio station to the point that it will attract a certain amount of listenership in conjunction with everything else that's going on in the radio station. Now, what you try to find is a happy balance between music and information. Now, if you find that right balance, financially, the reward is great.
When a station has a wide listening audience, it's more than likely that local business firms are going to spend money to advertise, or as it's called in the profession, to buy airtime from that station. A radio ad is usually very short, so what the message says and the way it's presented is really important.
You're just not shopping. The Carpet Factory, One Canaz Hill, for all your carpet needs. Call 786-8232. The Avalon Mall, with over 130 stores and services. The Avalon Mall, the best of all. And Wacky Wheatley's, Topsail Road. Phone 364-7587 for all your home and office computer needs.
You know, when you're trying to sell something that's youth-oriented, vibrant, bright, colored, very attractive, something that demands a reaction from a customer, a consumer, and you put some real slow music in it, you might as well have never recorded it. You might as well have never spent your money to do that, because it won't have any impact whatsoever. Yet, if you use horns and you staccato and you really got the bells and whistles and all the other little things that go in the right place, and you accent each phrase, each word, if you will, every sentence, every high point with a sting sound, I mean, now you got their attention.
As you've probably noticed, there's an awful lot of paperwork involved in running a radio station. Written records of all the music that stations use, music on disc, tape, or record, must be kept on a daily basis. That's so the station can keep track of what's being played, who composed it, who performed it, and who produced it. In the private radio stations, 4 times a year, for a period of 3 or 4 days, the stations have to keep a special log of every single song that's played that week on air. Now, it's a little different at CBC. Their daily music logs are sent to headquarters in Toronto every week, and headquarters handles the special log. These special logs are sent to an organization called SOCAN. SOCAN was formed to represent music composers and to see that the composers get paid for the airtime their music gets. The amount of money, or the royalties they will get, is calculated from the logs submitted by the radio stations. The performers, unless of course they also composed the music, don't get any money for the airtime. Performers make their money through the sales of their cassettes and discs and records in the stores. Another organization that protects the rights of musicians is the AF&M.
The AF&M is the American Federation of Musicians. It is an international organization of musicians. It is largely a union for the musicians. It's interested in musicians' welfare, both in terms of benefits, working conditions, salaries, etc. And CBC has a national agreement with the AF&M, which dictates the various charges for different types of recording and different types of performance. And we make a commitment right across the country to the AF&M, so many hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, and my share for this station is $50,000. In other words, $50,000 of my budget is committed to be spent on musical artists in any given year. Some years, in fact, it's more than that. It's never less than that. In addition to that, as a local thing here in this station, I've set a policy that within that, 1/4 of the music that we play will be Newfoundland recorded music. And when I say Newfoundland, I'm not talking about rubber boot music, I'm talking about the full gamut of Newfoundland music which is available. And I think a lot of people would be surprised at the amount of Newfoundland music which is recorded and released every year and the variety of it. There is everything from the old traditional music, new traditional music in the traditional form of music, all the way to jazz and everything in between. Last year, for instance, there were 62 album releases in Newfoundland. That includes largely cassettes, some CDs, and very few albums, mostly cassettes.
Did we hear the words recorded and released in that last segment? Just what does a radio station have to do with recording music?
A couple of years ago, we purchased the building which we're doing this interview in. We rented it for nearly 40 years. We purchased the building, and one of the things which we determined very early on was that we did not have a good stereo studio, state-of-the-art stereo studio, where we could record the kind of quality material that was necessary, particularly for FM broadcasting. And we put in a complete state-of-the-art multi-track studio. We have a production board with 36 inputs. We have a 24-track recording, stereo recording machine, and we have all the digital outrigger gear, digital effects and digital delay and reverb and all this kind of stuff that's required. And we are now able to produce, in fact, CD quality records out of that studio. We can master records from that studio to be sent to be made into cassette or CD releases. And one of the things which we are doing now is when we bring groups in to record them, the material that we use on the air, we're leasing that material back to them. They're recording enough extra selections then to issue their own albums. So we're actually co-producing record albums here out of Studio F.
Sunrise in the morning, birds singing on every tree, a greeting and a warning, the song that they're singing is be free. Wild rose in the forest, wild rose on the moor, dawn mist on the mountain, homers crashing on the shore. Wild rose in the forest, wild rose on the moor, dawn mist on the mountain, homers crashing on the shore.
Co-producing albums with local music groups sounds exciting, especially if you're a musician. But not just anyone can walk in and record an album. Certain criteria must be met.
Sunrise in the morning.
I should tell you, first of all, that there's been a change in philosophy with CBC programming over the last couple of years. We don't feel that our role is as developmental as it used to be. We feel now that there is plenty of outlet for musicians, either through concert appearances, touring, nightclub engagements, what have you. There is plenty of opportunity for musicians to develop their skills and to reach a standard that we would be interested in. Our role now really is to make the best use of that standard which is being developed in the community, and to record it and to share it with the audience. So we're constantly on the lookout for people who have made a name for themselves, who have achieved a certain standard of quality, and while we still do some developmental work with groups who are not quite there yet, most of our work now is done in terms of exposure and not in terms of development. So we have a number of producers. Those producers try to be well hooked into what's going on in the local community. You'll find many of them in the nightclubs around town or at the various concerts. Some of them are musicians themselves, so they actually play with a number of groups. And all of us, through what we're aware of, we all have our input into deciding. Plus which groups can come to us. I mean, if a group is interested, they can come, they can audition for us. We'll take a listen to them. If they have an audition tape that they've done somewhere else, we'll take a listen to that. And if we feel that there is potential for them in the kind of mix of programming that we do, and that the audience would be receptive to their type of performance, then we'd certainly take a look at them.
Well, what do you think? Is broadcast music here to stay? Can you visualize your world without radio and the top 40? Could you compose or perform music that might possibly make it to the charts one day? There's no denying, radio's still very much a part of our everyday lives, whether we happen to be radio personalities, working musicians, or simply listeners, looking for that special tune that fits the moment.